So I don't know if it's all the overtime work I've been doing over the last 3 months, or if it's just I'm getting so old, or maybe a combination of the two, or maybe I should go to a doctor and get something checked out in my head, but I made a pretty egregious error last week, which my mother later pointed out to me. I got the date wrong of the worst day of my life, which is really ridiculous. I said it was 2202. It's actually 2602. I don't know what my mind was thinking at the time that I made that video, but that's pretty ridiculous to screw that up. So if any of you that know my personal history and were watching last week's video and saw that, yeah, that was weird. I don't know why that happened. On to the funny. Hey guys, Sean here. So here it is, part 2 of my Comikaze extravaganza, which was interrupted by the who's who in my subscription box dedicated to the Vlogbrothers. So here's what's going to happen in this video. Basically, when I was recording the original full-length Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 of the Comikaze footage, I did all the Carrie Keegan stuff, and then I started to go into the rest of the Comikaze stuff, and then I eventually reached a point where I was like, this is getting way out of hand, and I need to split this video in two. So at that point, I went back, and I filmed the intro part for the Carrie Keegan video and the end part for the Carrie Keegan video, and then I never went back and filmed an intro part for the rest of the Comikaze stuff, because that was the Carrie Keegan video. So that's what this is right now that you're watching, is the intro for the rest of the Comikaze stuff. If you watch my channel, you know I'm all about full disclosure, so full disclosure, it has actually been a week and a half since I shot all that, and since that time, as you saw last week, I got a haircut. I just shaved, so my facial hair will be a little different, and I finally figured out how to properly wear this shirt combination, because as you saw, I had it completely out of whack through all of this footage, which you will see momentarily. Towards the end of this video, there will be a point where Editor Sean breaks in and explains why he's breaking in, so look forward to that. And with that, let's get to it. In the early 80s, there was a 6-part animated special called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was so hugely popular that it ended up becoming a series. This ran for, well, you know the story, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They had a series in the 80s, and then they went away, and then they came back in the 90s, and they had another series, and then they went away. And then now there is another series that is currently running on television. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is actually based on a rather graphic comic, and when they brought it to television, they made some major changes to it. One of the major ways that they changed it is that all of the turtles in the comic have a red bandana, whereas in the TV show they have individual colored bandanas that helps differentiate between them. They also completely changed the personality of one of the turtles to make him more kid-friendly. In the comics, Raphael was more of a brooding hard-ass who, well, basically, if you've seen the original live-action Ninja Turtles movie, or the 90s, or is it 2000s Ninja Turtles cartoon, or the current Ninja Turtles cartoon, or the TMNT computer animated movie, how Raphael is in all of those, that's how he was in the comics. But in the original 1980s series, he was more of a jokester, more of a sarcastic prankster. And it was because of this reason that he was my favorite, because I was like, I identify with that. And one of the things that really stuck with me was his voice. And so a few years later, when I was flipping through the channels, there was a cartoon on called Jungle Cubs, which was basically the Jungle Book, but when they were all children. And on that show, there was, I want to say, an elephant who sounded exactly like Raphael. And so for the first time in my life, I watched the credits for the Ninja Turtles, and I'm like, okay, who does the voice of Raphael? And then I watched the credits for Jungle Cubs, and I'm like, who does the voice of this elephant? And there it was, Rob Paulsen. did the voice for both of them. This was, of course, long before the internet and IMDb, when you could do all this stuff in 2 minutes. And so Rob Paulsen was the first name of a voice actor I ever learned, I guess. And anytime I ever heard his voice, I was like, oh hey, that's Rob Paulsen. So when Tiny Toons, when Foulmouth showed up, or Darkwing Duck when Steelbeak appeared, or there was actually an interview with him on Entertainment Tonight because he was doing the voice of the Mask and Stanley Ipkiss in the Mask cartoon. And that was the first time I ever saw him, and I was like, oh wow, that's what he looks like. And then in the 90s, when I was in the 9th grade, a new cartoon premiered called Animaniacs, and this changed my life. Okay, it didn't change my life, but it is, to this day, the greatest cartoon ever made. It is basically the story of the Warner Brothers and their sister Dot. And they never really say what they are. They're not like mice, and they're not like monkeys, and they're just this weird, like, black and white creature that has a red nose and these ears, and they're the Warners, that's what they are. And Rob Paulsen was the voice of Yakko, the oldest brother. Also on Animaniacs, they had a bunch of different characters that would appear in their own little shorts, and 2 of those characters were Pinky and the Brain, who are 2 lab mice who every single night come up with a scheme to try and take over the world. Rob Paulsen was the voice of Pinky, and Maurice LaMarche was the voice of the Brain. The Brain basically sounds exactly like Orson Welles. Maurice LaMarche was well known for doing a Orson Welles impression, to the point that he would often impersonate him on The Critic, which was a cartoon that was running at that time on Fox. And so, at Comikaze, Rob Paulsen and Maurice LaMarche were there in the animation row. And so it was finally time for me to actually meet Rob Paulsen and have the opportunity to tell him how important all of his work was to me, and tell him about how I would always tell people, oh, that's Rob Paulsen, and my favorite voice actor is Rob Paulsen. And for years and years and years, people would just be like, who's Rob Paulsen? And, you know, he's the guy, he does all the voices. He's Raphael, and he's Steelbeak, and he's Didgeridingo on Tasmania. And then eventually this little movie came out called Fight Club, and there is a scene where Meatloaf plays a guy who ends up getting killed during one of the missions that they go on, and his name is Robert Paulsen, and that is kind of a mantra that they use for the rest of the movie. And so every time from that point forward, whenever I told anyone Rob Paulsen's name, they would be like, his name is Robert Paulsen. And I always wanted to get his take on that, because as much as that ruined my life, it must have really ruined his life. But he was okay with it. He really likes Fight Club, and it didn't really bother him that much. But that's because he's a really, really cool guy. I don't know if there was a character in a movie named Sean Ballou, if something happened and then he became the #1 thing when you search my name on Google, I would be very upset. Much like all the other Sean Ballous in the world, that when they search their name, I'm the first thing that comes up. But anyway, I digress, and I got this. This is an autographed picture of Pinky and the Brain from Rob Paulsen and Maurice LaMarche. And much like when I got that Darkwing Duck picture signed by Jim Cummings, when Maurice LaMarche signed this, he said, "Are you pondering?" in the Brain's voice. And it was really great. I don't have a sleeve for this yet, but I need to get one. And once they were done signing everything and we were talking and all that, then I got this picture taken. Take it back. Someday I'll explain what they're holding, along with the Troy Baker picture where he was holding something, and the Susan Eisenberg picture where she was holding something. Someday I'll talk all about that. But I'll only be able to do that once I get a certain level of money on Patreon, so anyway. Next to Maurice LaMarche was another voice actor who I had met before because of work reasons, but I have a great deal of respect for, and that is Richard Horvitz. Richard Horvitz did the voice of Invader Zim on the cartoon Invader Zim, and even though I never really put 2 and 2 together until just past weekend, he did the voice of Alpha 5 on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I don't know why that never registered in my brain, but there were some girls talking to him and he did it, and I was like, obviously he's the voice of Alpha 5. So I talked to him for a while about voice acting and work connections and all that, and I got him to sign this picture of he who shall not be named at this point until the Patreon thing, and it was a lot of fun. And with that, it was time to walk around the convention. Hey guys, Editing Sean here. So, if you've seen the Carrie Keegan video, number 19, then you saw the part where we decided that we had way too much footage, and, well, here, this part right here. So I had originally planned to talk about what else happened at Comikaze, but all of this Carrie Keegan video stuff has ended up going way longer than I originally intended it to. 20 minutes. I'm going to have to split these videos in two. The rest of the Comikaze stuff maybe next week or maybe the week after. We will see. But to put a button on Carrie Keegan, does that sound creepy at all? Huh, actually it did. It sounded very creepy. Anyway, that happened like directly after what you just saw. And then something else happened, which we will see when we get back to the footage. This is actually the remainder of the video that you are currently watching, number 21. And one thing that you should know when we get back to it is that the image is very blurry. I don't exactly know why that happened. Cameraman Sean, do you have any explanation for that? Yeah, I was a little busy adjusting your mom's blurriness, so you know how that is. I don't even know why I talked to you. I don't know either. So yeah, we're gonna get back to the video here. There will be some explanation of what happened once all this was done, finished being filmed, and then there will be some footage from the actual convention itself, and then there will be some talking about who we ran into, and then just wrapping up the convention overall, and you will actually be introduced to another Sean, which is Narration Sean. There may be too many of us at this point, and we might have to have a Highlander type battle. We will see. So anyway, let's get back to the footage here. I hate you so much. Hey man, that's no way to talk about your new dad, is it? Good one. Okay, so not only did I shoot the end of the Carrie Keegan video, but I also had to completely empty the memory card that is in my camera because it was almost full, and then I had to watch Supergirl, and then I had to get caught up on tweets, so it's been like an hour and a half, closer to 2. So I don't remember where I was. Let's see, it was the rest of the con, right? Alright, so I finally got the chance to walk around Comikaze, and there were 2 things that I saw a whole lot of, and that was vinyl pop figures, because those have become insanely popular at comic conventions these days, and Suicide Squad Harley Quinns. I cannot tell you the number of Suicide Squad Harley Quinns that I saw. In fact, let's play a little game. I did take a few shots within the convention where I basically stood in a spot and then just kind of panned around. So let's take a look at those and see how many vinyl pop figures and how many Suicide Squad Harley Quinns we can find. So I'm realizing as I'm watching this footage that's not nearly as exciting as I thought it was, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a little narration on top of it, especially since there's not nearly that many Harley Quinns. This is Animation Alley. This is where the voice actors were that I was talking about. You can see Richard Horvitz there, Jim Cummings, Maurice LaMarche, and Rob Paulson, whose line I'm standing in. Here I'm zooming up on the stage because Robert Picardo is on the stage. He was the Doctor on Voyager and in all Joe Dante movies. Here's a douchebag looking in my lens. Here I'm just walking around, taking in the sights. You'll see a few people dressed up here. There's a stormtrooper there and a Jedi. There's a kid dressed like Ash from Pokemon down there. There's a guy with a pretty epic beard. Some artwork. Here is a rather impressive guy dressed like a Transformer. I believe it is Wheeljack. Here's a Star Wars Droid Builders Club. You can see there's some R2-D2s, some other R2 droids, and some BB-8s. There's a little kid dressed like Spider-Man. That's adorable. This is a fashion show that was going on the main stage when I was walking by, and so I'm like, let's record this. That's about as far as I went with the thought process in that. Here you will see some of the lesser-known celebrities, including Herbert Jefferson Jr., who was Lieutenant Boomer in the original Battlestar Galactica. He is at every single convention I have ever gone to, and I love the fact that he is there. Here's some Power Rangers, including the original Blue and Black Ranger, and the second Yellow and Red Ranger. Here I thought it was just some shirts until I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that's Tommy Wiseau from The Room, the writer and director of The Room. Here, of course, vinyl pop figures. As far as the eye can see, nothing but vinyl pop figures. Oh, hey, there's Waldo. Here's one of the many, many rows of Artist Alley where you can meet with the comic book artists and commission artwork and just, overall tell them how much you like their work. Oh, there we have a Squad Harley. This was me just testing out how well the zoom on my camera works. You can see that I am at one end of the convention center and I am zooming to the other end. Here's just some more looking around. You'll see there's a 60s Batgirl there. There's a Liu Kang. There's a Hot Topic booth there. There's another Ash. Here's some more zooming around. Some crazy psychedelic artwork. This is the commissary area. You'll see there's a Darth Vader there, Raven. If you've ever been to the LA Convention Center, you know this section very well. There is an assassin there. And, oh, do you see her? There's another Squad Harley. There's probably a lot of Squad Harleys around. It's just so many people to pick out. Someone dressed like a cardinal, apparently. There's some more assassins. There's a Robin. There's a Velma. There's Negan, a Spider-Man. Ness from Earthbound. A lot of people that you could pick out. Wow, that was a lot. Or it was a little. I don't know. I didn't actually watch the footage yet, so we'll see once it's edited and put together. So in the grand scheme of Comikaze, I had already talked to all the people I talked to, and then I ran into two more people. First off, I ran into Andre Meadows, who is known on Twitter as Black Nerd Comedy. If you've never seen any of his videos, he does really great movie reviews and reviews on basically all geek culture, like Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and just everything. He's a really nice guy to talk to, and I'm going to actually link to, here, we'll do here, it's like a link here. I'll link to his Ghostbusters review. I really loved his Ghostbusters review. He basically went, he had to leave in his body in order to do it, and it was really funny. So I'm going to link to that right here. Andre's Ghostbusters review. And finally, I ran into a YouTuber who is definitely going to be a who's who in my subscription box one day, because I have a lot to say about her, and that is Brizzy Voices. Brizzy Voices is one of my favorite YouTubers, and I am going to link to 5 of her videos here. Just 5 random ones. I don't even know which ones they're going to be yet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 different links for you to click on, and they'll all be down below too, so you can click on them. She's great, she is so talented, and she is so nice. And of all the famous YouTubers, she's the one that I've met the most. I've met her like at 6 different conventions now. But we'll get into that more in the who's who in my subscription box on her whenever I get around to it. And so that was it. Comikaze 2016. I almost didn't get to go to it, but I'm so glad that I got to because of all the people that I got to see and meet. That is really what I like most about going to these conventions, is getting to meet people that I otherwise wouldn't be able to. Sure, there's lots of stuff you could buy only there and things you can look at and all that, but really to me it's about that moment, that personal interaction with someone that is important to you in some way and has entertained you in some way. Which I mentioned before in the Long Beach Comic-Con one, but it still stands true. That is what I really like most about going to these conventions. So I'd say I've probably talked too much since I had enough for 2 different videos and there's possibly one in between them, so Wow, that's a lot. Do you have anything to add, editing, Sean? Did I miss anything? Miss anything? This video is 20 minutes long. The Carrie Keegan video was 20 minutes long. If you had left them together, that would have been a 40-minute long video. How could you possibly miss anything? You really need to stop talking so much. You're not that interesting. Anyway, back to you. Well, you heard it from him, so... And so with that, have a good however long it is until you watch my next video.